Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a common garden mystery, something you've probably seen if you buy plants, especially later in spring. You know, that unexpected, super fast growing green thing that suddenly appears in your nursery pots. You bring home something lovely, something you actually paid for, and then boom, this squatter shows up, taking over the soil. Well, that plant has an identity, and today we're going to give it one. Based on the observations we've pulled together, our mission is to really break down what we know about this culprit, Perilla frutescens. We're aiming to solve this little botanical puzzle for you. Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, it's interesting how the person who documented this really pinned it down. They moved past just, oh, it's a weed, to a proper species ID. And they did it by focusing purely on structure, not getting sidetracked by color or even scent initially. It really highlights how crucial good observation is, getting down to the facts.
Exactly. It's so easy to just pull it and forget it, right? But the notes that we looked at emphasize that if you just pause, take a few seconds, and look at three specific structural points, you can be certain it's Perilla frutescens. It's like its fingerprint. The first clue, maybe the most distinctive one, is the stem. If you actually rolled the stem of this mystery plant between your fingers, you'd notice it's not round. Most plants are round. This one, it has square stems.
That square stem is absolutely the gold standard here. It's the key takeaway, really, because when you find a plant with a square stem, it instantly tells you something huge. It puts its square, pardon the pun, into the Lamiaceae family. That's the mint family. Huge family, very recognizable members.
Wow, okay, so just by feeling the stem, you've jumped from some random weed to, okay, it's related to mint or basil, maybe even catnip. That's a big leap in identification. But then how did the observer narrow it down from, well, hundreds of other square-stemmed mint relatives?
Right, good question. That's where the leaves come in. The square stem had to be paired with the leaf details. The notes mention two more critical features. The leaves grow opposite each other on the stem.
Opposite, meaning directly across from each other, yeah?
Correct, directly across. And they're described as ovate with serrated margins.
Okay, let's break those down. Ovate just means sort of egg-shaped, like wider at the base.
Exactly, wider at the base, tapering a bit towards the tip. An oval or egg shape. That opposite arrangement confirms the mint family link again. But the other really key part, after the square stem, is that serrated margin.
Serrated margin.
Like
Little teeth along the edge of the leaf. Right, not smooth.
Precisely. Like a little saw blade edge. So you put it all together. Square stem, leaves directly opposite each other, and those leaves being ovate with serrated edges. That's your positive ID for this type of Perilla, the one commonly found self-seeding around.
Now, here's something interesting the observer pointed out. Usually, when people think Perilla, they might picture shiso, the deep purple or maybe the two-tone varieties. But this specific plant popping up in the pots was, well, it was just entirely green.
And this is such an important point for identification in general. You have to trust structure over color. Color, that's the phenotype, right? It's how the genes express themselves visually. And that expression can change dramatically based on things like sunlight, soil conditions, temperature, or it could just be a different variety, a cultivar versus the basic species type.
So the color is like secondary information. It can be misleading because the environment affects it, but the stem's cross-section being square, that's fundamental. That's genetic. That's what let the observer be sure, even without the usual purple color.
Yes. It's actually quite insightful that they could ignore the missing purple and still confidently identify it based purely on that structural evidence. They knew the stem shape and leaf arrangement were the reliable clues, while color is, well, it's variable.
Okay, so the visual ID is sorted. Square stem, opposite serrated leaves. Got it. But often, especially for people really into plants or herbs, the smell is part of the confirmation. What did the notes say about fragrance?
Well, traditionally, Perilla frutescens leaves, when you crush them, give off a pretty distinct smell. It's often described as musky, maybe mint-like. Though, depending on the specific type, some people get hints of anise or maybe cinnamon. Others just find it quite strongly. Green or vegetal, it's definitely got a recognizable profile.
But here's the interesting detail from the account. The observer was so sure based on the visual clues, that stem, those leaves, that they specifically noted they hadn't actually done the smell test yet. They nailed the ID just by looking.
Which really speaks to how strong those visual markers are, doesn't it? The full name, Perilla frutescens, it actually covers a huge range. You've got culinary shiso, you've got E. goma, which is grown for oil. They all fall under that one species umbrella, meaning they share that core structure, even if the scent or flavor profile, the olfactory evidence, as you might call it, varies a bit. The structure is the constant.
All right, so we know what it is now. Perilla frutescens, check. But the next big question is why? Why this plant? Why is it the mystery invader in these seemingly clean pots? Why does it pop up so much? This is where it gets really interesting, moving from just ID to its actual behavior.
Yeah, the description is pretty clear. This isn't a shy plant. It's described as aggressive and fast-growing. And the main reason it's everywhere and causing this specific issue in nursery pots is its reproductive strategy. It self-seeds prolifically.
Prolifically, that sounds like an understatement. It means one plant can produce a ton of viable seeds, right? Year after year, and it just does it on its own.
Exactly right. Thousands of seeds per plant isn't unusual, and these seeds are tough. They're built for survival. Some varieties might even have ways to fling their seeds a little distance. Plus, they're super competitive. If a seed lands somewhere halfway decent, it's going to try its best to grow.
And that aggressive self-seeding directly explains the mystery sprouts then. The hypothesis in the notes is that these aren't new seeds blowing in. It's that dormant seeds were already in the potting mix of the nursery pots when they were bought. They were just waiting.
This really gets into seed dormancy, which is fascinating. Why did they sprout at the nursery?
While many seeds, especially from weeds or hardy plants, have built-in waiting mechanisms. They might need a cold period, what we call stratification, or specific cycles of temperature changes or moisture cues to break that dormancy.
So the conditions in a commercial nursery, maybe more controlled temperatures, consistent watering, perhaps even being indoors, might not provide the right signals. The seed's internal clock isn't triggered.
Precisely. The seed is basically waiting for signals that mimic a natural seasonal change. Then you bring the pot home, you put it outside, it gets warm days, cooler nights, maybe a regular watering schedule. Those are the favorable environmental conditions that finally flip the switch. The dormant seed gets the message, okay, conditions are right, time to grow. It's like a little time bomb hidden in the soil mix. The sources suggest that because perilla seeds are so viable, even a tiny bit of contamination in the original soil can lead to dozens of these things suddenly shooting up. It's not necessarily bad nursery practice, it's just testament to how incredibly resilient these seeds are. That seed coat protects them.
Absolutely. And if you think about the bigger picture, it shows how much is going on unseen in soil. A nursery pot, with its moisture and nutrients, is kind of the perfect incubator for any persistent seed that happens to be in there. It's not just inert dirt, it can be a living seed bank just waiting for activation.
Mystery solved then. We know the look, that signature square stem, those opposite serrated leaves, and we understand the behavior. Aggressive self-seeding with seeds that can stay dormant and viable for quite some time. Perilla frutescens. So what does this mean for you, the listener, practically? Well, it means next time you see an unknown sprout with that square stem, you know what you're likely dealing with. You understand its family, its likely origin story, dormant seed in the soil. And having that certainty is the first step to figuring out how to manage it if you need to.
Which brings up a final thought, something to maybe ponder. Building on this idea of dormancy and resilience, we know these perilla seeds waited, maybe for months, for the right conditions. But just how long can seeds, especially from aggressive plants like this, remain viable? Some studies suggest that seeds from certain weeds can lie dormant in the soil, perfectly capable of sprouting, not just for months, but for years, maybe even decades. So think about this. What other surprise guests might be hiding in the soil of that clean nursery stock you buy next spring? What other seeds are just waiting patiently under the surface for their moment? The perilla is just one example of the hidden life and persistence in the soil all around us.